Now is South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace, a member of the House Oversight, Armed Services, and Veterans Affairs Committees. Congresswoman, good to see you.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. So we're getting some details on what Kamala Harris may release today. But, of course, she's blaming companies for the spike in inflation, saying that they are price gouging. Your thoughts?
Well, certainly she is tied to every policy that Joe Biden has done over the last 4 years. She was the tiebreaker vote in the Senate on 33 bills that Joe Biden has passed into law that have created this problem. And her solution, Maria, as you know, isn't going to fix the high prices. Government spending, the Fed printing money, all these things that have been going on in the last 4 years have only made prices more expensive for people. Regulations, the number of regulations that we have on businesses and industry, again, contribute to the growing inflation crisis we're having today. And unfortunately, much like the Inflation Reduction Act, her policies are only going to make the problem that she helped create worse.
I mean, it seems to me to say that companies are price gouging and putting controls in there. She says she wants to do a ban on price gouging. So who's to say what's price gouging? Who's going to be the ultimate person saying, yes, that's price gouging and set a price control?
Right.
There's a whole story in the New York Times today saying price control set off heated debate as history gets a second look over when we saw price controls back in the 70s where there were people waiting on lines around the block for oil and gas.
It didn't work then, and inflation was far worse then than it is now, but it will help promote increasing inflation. It's going to hurt the economy. We've got to grow the economy greater than GDP. We're not doing that right now. It's because of government overreach. It's because of massive spending. It's because of we literally for years paid people to stay home, not to work. All of these things have contributed to the rise in costs of groceries and gas, and we're feeling the pain at home. I remember in the election in November of 2020, I filled up on gas at $1.89. Yesterday, as I was traveling, it was $3.89. These prices aren't going down at all, and her policies are only going to make the issue worse for hardworking Americans that are having trouble putting food on the table for them and their kids.
Yeah, and this is all so that she can pay for more regulations and more spending on the climate change
and
agenda.
more taxes too. It's gonna hurt America, hardworking middle America.
She is probably going to say she's going to cut taxes for the lowest earners out there today, but we'll see. We want more details on what she's going to say. We don't know because sometimes she could say she's going to lower taxes and increase taxes for the highest earners. She's got to come up with the revenue somewhere. Right? Because she's got a climate change agenda to pay for. There's also the border, Congresswoman. I want to get your thoughts on this because a new Fox News poll shows 87% of voters think that the situation at the southern border is an emergency or a major problem. I don't have to tell you that. You've been there tons of times, but there's concern over the border growing. The most Americans under the age of 30, black voters and Democrats, are actually among the most worried here. The same poll reveals 71% of voters blame the border crisis on lack of enforcement from the Biden-Harris administration. Can she get away with acting as if she had nothing to do with the wide open border?
No, she can't. And that's the problem with the Biden-Harris administration is the way that they have misled America. And this is in swing states and in swing districts in November. The border is the second highest, most important issue to those voters. And you're seeing mainstream media. They're trying to rebrand her now, but she was the border czar. In fact, Joe Biden said specifically she was in charge of Mexico on the Northern Triangle and barely made a visit down there. And we know that they have encouraged this. They're using U.S. taxpayer dollars to inform illegals how to cross the border through NGOs, and they're instructing them on how to vote when they get here and how to get IDs and all of those things. This is a crisis that was massively exacerbated by an open border policy. And when Joe Biden was sworn into office, I didn't see Vice President Harris come out and condemn everything that he did to open the border, to have all these millions of illegals come across. We know that they want them to vote in our elections now. It is destroying our country, the violence, the fentanyl, and this administration, she nor Joe Biden have done anything about it. And we've all seen illegals. We've seen murders on the streets. We've seen young girls and women raped by these people. They need to go back home. We need to fix our visa system. People that want to follow the law come here and work seasonally. I think there's a lot of things that we can do right now, but we've got to stem the tide of all of this, which is why it's so important that we get Donald Trump elected in November. He can end this.
It's very, very concerning. I'm going to bring in the panel in a second, but I want to get your take on the Oversight Committee, your committee, demanding information from Google after Google admitted they admitted that they censored search results on the Trump assassination attempt. This is just outrageous. Google executives are now facing renewed calls to testify over why the search results did not bring up Trump's name when users typed in assassination attempt. Google claims that it was aimed at avoiding predictions on political violence, Congresswoman. Are you buying this about social media censoring an assassination attempt on the former president?
No, I'm not buying it. In fact, when I saw this going through on X or on Twitter, I actually tested it out myself and saw that they were censoring Google searches and also search results. And so censorship is what socialist nations do, communist nations do. We're for freedom, we're for liberty, we're for democracy, we're for the truth. And we can't have big tech come in here and try to sway people in any political direction. In fact, just a couple of days ago, Maria, I was in a Google ad account, search account, and I typed in the search word Trump, and my account got flagged. Like it said that I didn't want to approve the ad because I was using the search word Trump. So I've tested these things out. I used to be a computer programmer, and we should not have big tech trying to sway people in an election, trying to censor words or phrases. People should be able to get information freely and be able to get to the truth and make a decision for themselves.
So what are you going to do about it on the Oversight Committee?
Well, we would like to have Google come in and testify. We'll see. We know that in the last election and throughout the last 4 years, we saw the Biden-Harris administration, they tried to use big tech, the FBI specifically, to censor COVID-19 information.
That's right. Yep.
I mean, we had Twitter executives come in. I hope Google will do the same, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Caitlin McGee, jump in here on the upcoming Kamala Harris press conference. We're expecting her to say something about the economy. Your thoughts?
Congresswoman, I'm curious to hear what you think Kamala Harris's economic agenda might do in these important down-ballot races this November. As Maria mentioned earlier, if she goes ahead with some sort of price gouging, price control scheme, someone has to be the central planning authority. She certainly wouldn't have the authority to do that as president, so theoretically she would introduce a bill. How does this affect lawmakers this November?
Well, I think it's a very complicated issue because it's going to be hard to define. And it's also, how do you do this? The thing that concerns me, and this is something that Joe Biden was very good at, has been the last 4 years, is trying to buy votes. So you mentioned earlier about the $25,000 down payment and how that may increase housing prices, the cost of building homes, et cetera. My concern is what promises is she going to make to dole out cash as a means to try to buy votes, knowing full well it can never happen?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's true. He was buying votes with the student loan forgiveness, of course. We know that. Congresswoman, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Nancy Mace joining us this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back.